If you're losing weight and you're feeling great, this video is not for you. If you are not losing weight and you're feeling great, or especially if you're not losing weight and you're not feeling great at all, so you get both options, because sometimes you might feel great but still not lose weight because you might be eating the right produce, so you have to be very specific here. This video is for you. So for many people, they quickly need to understand it. For our majority of our clients, they're getting results. So we typically give them an understanding and breakdown of eating the right produce consistently for periods of time which we feel are sustainable over the long term, and they end up losing loads of weight, feeling stronger, performance goes through the roof, amazing. For some people, they want lots of variation in their diet. All right, and if it's body fat they're looking to drop, then having lots of variation causes a lot of trouble when you're not specific with the food you're eating. If you're not conscious of what you're eating and you're just eating things because it's relatively healthy but not really understanding what it's cooked in, you're not really understanding what the sauce calories are, etc., then you're going to get yourself into a bit of a pickle. You're going to get frustrated because even though you might be hitting certain protein targets and some of the food is good quality and you're not losing weight on top of that, it can be frustrating. But you cannot have one thing and not the other. So what I mean by that is, if you have the right produce, then and you're really keeping it simple, then you reap the benefit of not having to really over focus on counting calories or really much else after that, because it's simplistic food. It's clearly the right produce, you're eating enough protein, and you're not getting calories from other things around it like sauces and different things. So you get the benefit of that. When you want the positive of the right different produce and taste, etc., you have to understand that you can't have one thing and not the other, which means that you cannot have that stuff but then be not conscious of the calories in the food. So what you need to do here is what I would typically suggest is, I don't want my clients or anyone watching this following calorie counting forever, because that is obsessive and I don't think it's necessary and it's not healthy. And anytime I've ever watched anyone do that, they typically end up dropping lots of body fat and then putting it all back on again because they're hyper obsessed with calories, and nor are they healthy mindset wise with food. They don't have an enjoyment of food. They have a bad relationship with food typically, even people who are really high up in the fitness world. But moving on from that, understanding the calories in the food is fundamental. This week we had people count their calories who are some people who are stuck. The vast majority of people do follow the simplistic food and we get results every week, which is amazing. But for those who did not and they were getting a little bit frustrated, I recommended them to count their calories, those clients in Dubai and those clients outside Dubai, and we got crazy feedback to go, wow, after even one day, these clients were saying, wow, I did not realize the calories in these kinds of foods. I didn't realize the little bits of nuts or the sauce, etc., was so high in calories. And when you calculate it over a day, and especially when you calculate it over a whole week, the calories are ridiculous and unnecessary, and they can be avoided. That doesn't mean you have to eat simplistic, but it does mean that you might need to be more conscious of the sauce you eat, for example, making sure that the sauce is, a lemon-based sauce that's not high in calories compared to another sauce. So it's not saying that you cannot have that, it's just being more conscious of actually what is in it, and specifically try to home make that as well. Home make everything, because then you know what's inside. On top of that, if you don't home make it, you're again, on top of counting the calories, you're having to think about what is in and what is cooked this food. And that again, that is more trouble, more headache. So you're trying to get most of the time getting the food from your home, which is what's in it. And that's fundamental for the long-term progress. But short-term wise, counting your calories for 7 to 14 days is fundamental for you to understand calories, because typically what the cycle would be this. Oh, I am eating the right produce, I'm doing the exercises, but I'm not losing weight. Then you get frustrated, you start blaming other stuff, but at the end of the day, the science shows that if you're on a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. The conversation over. If you're not in a calories deficit, you will not lose weight. How you teach that, from our side of things, different to what most people teach. But for those who do want that kind of varied diet, you have to count your calories, and you have to understand that counting the calories need to be correct as well. For many people, they guesstimate when they count calories, and when you guesstimate, you end up in a situation where you are not getting the right calories. You could be off by 200-300 calories at that point, and even if you're off by 150 calories and you times that by 7, you're talking close to 1,050, if I got that calculation correct, 75 calories a day times by 7 for 2 meals a day, 75 times by 7, 150 times by 7 would be 1,050. Correct me if I'm wrong if you're watching this. And that's typically nearly a whole day of eating, just because you're off by a little bit on each meal. And that is the difference between losing weight and not losing weight. And that is why learning that part of it is also important. Even though I typically try not to get the calories counted, doing it for 7 to 14 days is very, very helpful. And the quicker you get to grips with that and understand you are no different and you will lose weight just like everybody else on a calorie deficit, the better. Because some people are slightly delusioned and they think, oh no, it's because of this, my doctor told me this, and you're getting misled. If you're on a calorie deficit just like everybody else, you'll lose weight regardless. And that is why counting your calories and coming into a realization of what you're actually doing on a 7 to 14 day basis is actually what matters. Because for many people, they might do well 5 days a week and then they really over calories for the 2 days, even though they're eating relatively healthy, and they don't lose weight, they get frustrated, and then they end up giving up or blaming other things. And that is where you don't want to go. That's not the road you want to go down. Hope that's helpful. Keeping it simple. You've got 2 options. Option 1, follow the simple meat, fruit, veg, simplistic, maybe some potatoes, rice, keeping that in your diet, homemade. Or if you want to come to the other side with more flexibility, you're going to have to count calories more often, because I've never really had anyone who's stuck to number 1 way of doing it and not lose weight, because it's home cooked, it's really simple food. But for most people who have the flexibility, those are the people that get frustrated and stuck, because they have to also understand that if they want variation, you have to count the calories in that variation, which then gives you an extra task to do, which can be harder then, and which is the reason why I teach option number 1, is because for most people, they want a simplistic way of eating. But find your balance, pick either one, just have the realization that is the most important part of getting in shape. Dropping body fat is the foundation of nutrition. Of calories is the foundation, and you should follow that correct. If you got to this part of the video, please let me know in the comments, because I always want to know if someone's watched to the end. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.